One of the most valuable lessons I've learned over the course of my life is the power of radical transparency and deep reflection. When you hit your 40S and 50S, you begin to realize that the stories you tell yourself, the little narratives you carry around, either become your prison or your liberation. And the only way to see which one it is through unfiltered truth. Most people don't fail because they can't succeed. They fail because they can't face reality as it really is. You see, life gives you feedback constantly. Every mistake, every success, every moment of doubt or triumph, it's all data. And yet most people ignore the most valuable data they have because they're too attached to how they wish things were. They protect their egos, they hide from their mistakes, they defend their weaknesses instead of confronting them. That's like flying a plane into a storm with your eyes closed because you don't like what the instruments are telling you. Radical transparency is about opening your eyes no matter how uncomfortable it is. It's about being brutally honest with yourself and with others. It's about creating an environment where truth is more important than looking good, where understanding reality is more important than protecting yourself from it. When you live this way, your life gets better, not easier, but better. Problems stop being things to fear. They start becoming clues, like stepping stones, pointing you to the next level of your growth. But it's not enough just to be transparent. You have to reflect. You have to ask yourself constantly, what's true? What's really happening here? It's one thing to notice you failed at something. It's another to really sit with it and understand why. Most people skip that part. They blame circumstances. Other people, bad luck, they move on too fast. And because they don't reflect deeply, they don't evolve. They just keep repeating the same mistakes in slightly different forms. Real reflection is hard work. It requires setting your ego aside and seeing your own weaknesses without judgment. It means looking at the outcomes you're getting and tracing them back to the decisions you made and the assumptions you carried. And it means doing that over and over until the connection between cause and effect becomes crystal clear, until you can see your patterns as easily as you see someone else's. If you're willing to do that, something incredible happens. You start to change in real permanent ways. You stop crashing into the same walls. You get stronger, smarter, wiser. You start designing better paths forward instead of stumbling into them by accident. And over time, the compounding effects of all that reflection become enormous because small changes applied consistently over years lead to transformations that seem unbelievable to people who haven't done the work. Most people underestimate how powerful compounding is, not just in wealth, but in wisdom. If you make yourself 1% better at seeing and dealing with reality each week, imagine where you'll be in 5 years, imagine where you'll be in 10. The 40S and 50S are a critical period because you still have enough time to build something extraordinary, but only if you stop pretending and start paying attention. Another thing you realize as you embrace this way of living is that other people's feedback becomes gold. When you're radically transparent with yourself, you stop seeing criticism as a threat and start seeing it as a gift. You invite it. You want people around you who tell you the truth, even when it stings. In fact, the more it stings, the more valuable it probably is. That sting is a sign that you're hitting something real, something worth examining. And here's the beautiful part. When you become transparent with yourself, you give permission for others to be transparent with you. It creates a feedback loop of honesty and growth. That's incredibly rare and incredibly powerful. You attract better relationships, better partnerships, better teams, not because you're pretending to be perfect, but because you're committed to learning and evolving together. The truth is, pain plus reflection equals progress. Pain without reflection is wasted. It just becomes bitterness or regret. But when you combine the two, when you feel the sting, you study it and you change your approach, you're engaging in the most powerful force for growth that I know of. If you're in your 40S or 50S right now, this is your window. Life has taught you some hard lessons already. Don't let them go to waste. Go back and study them. Mine them for insights. Be radically transparent with yourself about who you are, what you've done, and where you're headed. Reflect deeply. Change deliberately. Compound your learning. The future you'll build from that foundation will not only surprise others, it will surprise you. Life is a series of challenges. That's just the way it is. No one gets through without struggle, without setbacks, without moments that test the limits of who they are. And when you understand that, really understand it, you stop reacting to challenges as if something is wrong. You start seeing them for what they actually are, opportunities to get stronger, smarter, better. The biggest mistake people make is thinking life is supposed to be easy. They get surprised when it's hard. They get angry when obstacles appear. They think something is unfair when really it's perfectly natural. Pain, difficulty, failure, these are features of the system, not bugs. They are the mechanism by which nature forces us to grow. Think about the way muscles build. You don't get stronger by sitting on the couch. You get stronger by pushing yourself to the point of failure over and over again. You get stronger by demanding more of yourself than you think you can handle. Life operates the same way. Every time you encounter a problem that pushes you to your limits, you're being offered a choice. Get stronger or get weaker. Most people avoid the discomfort. They shy away from the pain. They tell themselves stories about why things didn't work out, about why they're stuck. They become victims of circumstance. But the ones who thrive, the ones who turn their 40 and 50S into the best decades of their lives, are the ones who lean into it. They recognize that every problem contains within it a lesson. Every failure contains valuable information. Every painful moment is a doorway to a better version of themselves. It's easy to say this when things are going well. It's a lot harder when you're in the middle of something brutal, when you've just lost a job or your business has collapsed or your health has taken a turn. In those moments, the natural instinct is to panic, to retreat, to blame. But if you can catch yourself, if you can pause and ask, what is this here to teach me? You gain an advantage over almost everyone else. You stay in the driver's seat instead of becoming a passenger. Problems are signals. They're signals that something isn't working the way it should, either in your thinking, your systems, your skills, or your environment. If you can diagnose the root cause of a problem without emotion clouding your judgment, you can design a better approach. You can evolve. Every time you do that, you not only solve the immediate problem, you also become more capable. You raise your baseline for the future. The people who live extraordinary lives aren't the ones who had no problem. They're the ones who developed better problem-solving abilities than everyone else. They trained themselves to respond to difficulty with curiosity instead of fear. They trained themselves to analyze instead of react. They became better at turning hardship into fuel. One of the greatest advantages of being in your 40S or 50S is that you've seen enough to start recognizing patterns. Life isn't random chaos anymore. You can look back and see how your biggest challenges shaped you. You can see how the painful experiences made you wiser. That perspective is priceless. It means that when the next challenge comes, and it will, you meet it with a different mindset. You meet it knowing that hidden inside the difficulty is the next breakthrough, the next evolution of yourself. But only if you do the work, only if you choose to engage rather than avoid. Only if you treat the challenge not as something unfair, but as something essential. If you start to look at life this way, it changes everything. Instead of dreading the next obstacle, you welcome it. Instead of wishing for things to be easier, you wish to be better equipped. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what can I gain from this? You become resilient. And resilience is one of the rarest and most valuable qualities you can have, especially as you get older. The 40S and 50S are not the beginning of decline. They're the prime time to build depth, strength, and wisdom, but only if you leverage what life throws at you instead of letting it knock you down. If you adopt this mindset, then every tough moment ahead becomes another opportunity, not to prove anything to anyone else, but to prove something to yourself, that you are capable of becoming the person you were meant to be. Remember, struggle is the forge in which greatness is formed. Lean into it, respect it, and most importantly, use it. If there's one truth that never changes, it's that everything else will. The world doesn't stand still. Technology advances, markets shift, industries transform, people evolve. And if you don't evolve with it, you fall behind, often without even realizing it until it's too late. That's why continuous learning and adaptability aren't luxuries. They're necessities. Most people, after a certain point, stop learning. They settle into routines. They rely on what they already know because it feels safe. It gives them a sense of control. But over time, what they know becomes less relevant. The skills that got them where they are aren't the skills that will take them where they need to go. And by the time reality forces them to change, it's often too late. They're operating in a world that no longer exists. The most successful people I know are the ones who never stop being students. No matter how much they've accomplished, no matter how high they've climbed, they stay hungry for knowledge, they stay curious, they stay humble. They recognize that what they know today is just a tiny fraction of what there is to learn. And they don't just learn casually, they make it a priority, a discipline. Continuous learning isn't about collecting facts. It's about training yourself to see reality more clearly. It's about updating your mental models. It's about questioning your assumptions, challenging your beliefs, and admitting when you're wrong. That's not easy to do, especially when you have decades of experience telling you you're smart. But it's exactly that willingness to be wrong that keeps you getting smarter. Adaptability is the other side of the coin. It's not enough to know more. You have to be willing to change based on what you learn. Most people resist change because it threatens their identity. It threatens the stories they tell themselves about who they are. But adaptability requires letting go of those stories. It requires prioritizing truth over comfort, growth over pride. The people who thrive in their 40S, 50S, and beyond are the ones who make learning and adaptability a way of life. They don't see change as something to fear. They see it as something to harness. They build habits that keep them flexible, reading, listening, experimenting, asking hard questions. They seek out information that challenges them instead of only consuming what confirms what they already believe. One of the best disciplines you can build is a habit of daily learning. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be reading a few pages of a book that pushes your thinking, listening to a podcast from someone you disagree with to understand their perspective, sitting down for 10 minutes each night and asking yourself, what did I learn today? Small practices done consistently build immense advantages over time. Adaptability also means being willing to pivot when the data demands it. Too often, people stick with failing strategies because they're emotionally invested in it. They don't want to admit they made a bad call, but holding on to a bad decision just because you spent a lot of time or energy on it is like throwing good money after bad. The best decision makers are the ones who can change course quickly when new information comes in. It's worth remembering Evolution doesn't reward the strongest or the smartest. It rewards the most adaptable. Species that survived weren't the biggest or the fiercest. They were the ones that could respond to changing conditions. The same principle applies to your career, your relationships, your personal growth. The more adaptable you are, the more inevitable your success becomes. In your 40S and 50S, you have the wisdom that comes from experience, but you also still have the time and energy to reinvent yourself, if you're willing. Don't let comfort trick you into stagnation. Don't let pride stop you from evolving. The next phase of your life can be your most productive, most fulfilling, most impactful, but only if you keep learning and only if you stay adaptable. Make learning a daily practice, not an occasional project. Make adaptability a habit, not an emergency response. Build the reflex to say, I don't know enough, instead of pretending you have all the answers. Build the humility to pivot when necessary instead of digging deeper into a mistake. If you do that, there's no limit to how far you can go. The world will keep changing whether you're ready or not. The question is, will you change with it, or will you cling to the past and let the future pass you by? The choice, as always, is yours. One of the hardest but most valuable things you can do as you move through life is to simplify. Complexity is seductive. It makes you feel smart. It makes you feel like you're doing something important. But most of the time, complexity is just a trap. It creates confusion, wastes time, and buries what actually matters under layers of noise. Simplification requires discipline. It forces you to cut through the clutter, to ignore distractions, to say no to good opportunities so you can say yes to the best ones. It demands clarity of purpose, knowing exactly what you're trying to achieve and ruthlessly aligning everything you do toward that goal. Anything that doesn't serve that mission needs to go, no matter how attractive or comfortable it might seem. The reality is, you can't do everything. You can't be everything to everyone. You have limited time, limited energy, limited resources. Every minute you spend on something that doesn't matter is a minute you're stealing from something that does. And when you really understand that, when you feel the urgency of it, simplification stops being optional. It becomes essential. Most people overcomplicate their lives because they haven't taken the time to step back and define what truly matters to them. They chase too many goals at once. They maintain relationships that drain them. They fill their schedules with activities that look good on paper, but don't bring them any closer to their real objectives. They confuse movement with progress. The ones who build lasting success in business, in relationships, in personal fulfillment, are the ones who get brutally clear about what they want and systematically eliminate everything else. They don't waste time on drama. They don't spread themselves too thin. They focus their attention, their creativity, their effort like a laser on the few things that matter most. Simplifying isn't just about doing less. It's about doing what matters more deeply. It's about going to the core of an issue rather than dancing around the edges. It's about mastering the fundamentals instead of chasing the next shiny tactic. Whether you're building a career, a company, or a life, fundamentals win in the end. A big part of simplification is learning to separate the important from the urgent. Urgent things scream for your attention. Emails, meetings, small fires. Important things often whisper, relationships that need tending, strategic moves that need space to develop, personal growth that requires time and reflection. If you don't deliberately prioritize the important over the urgent, your life will fill up with noise and you'll wake up one day wondering where all the years went. Focus is another word for respect. When you focus on something, you're respecting its value. You're treating it as worthy of your full attention. But most people are so distracted, so scattered, that they give everything partial focus and nothing their full focus. As a result, they don't get the depth. of results they could if they concentrated their effort. The truth is, big success comes from doing a few things extraordinarily well, not from doing many things moderately well. It comes from going deep, not wide. It comes from mastering a craft, building a few extraordinary relationships, making a few great decisions, not trying to hedge your bets across 1,000 possibilities. Simplification also means learning to tolerate the discomfort of missing out, because you will miss out. You'll say no to opportunities that seem exciting but aren't aligned with your true mission. You'll disappoint people. You'll question yourself sometimes. But that's the price of clarity. And clarity over time pays exponential dividends. By the time you reach your 40S and 50S, you've accumulated a lot of experiences, obligations, responsibilities. It's natural. But the real leverage at this stage isn't in adding more. It's in subtracting. It's in stripping away everything that's non-essential so that what remains is strong, vital, and meaningful. Ask yourself, if I could only focus on 3 things for the next decade, what would they be? Which relationships, which skills, which projects truly deserve my full investment? What am I willing to let die so that something better can thrive? If you don't answer those questions consciously, life will answer them for you, and you might not like the answers you get. Simplify, focus, protect your energy, respect your time. Guard your attention like it's your most precious asset, because it is. When you do that, you'll find that not only do you achieve more, but you experience life more fully. The quality of your attention determines the quality of your results and the quality of your life. When you simplify and focus on what matters most, you don't move truer. You move toward a life that's not only more successful, but more meaningful. The importance of relationships cannot be overstated. As you progress in life, you'll quickly realize that success is rarely a solo journey. The people you surround yourself with, the networks you build, the partnerships you create, they all play a vital role in the trajectory of your life. But not all relationships are created equal. What truly matters is the quality, not the quantity, of the relationships you invest in. Many people spend too much time chasing superficial connections. They network because they think it's the right thing to do, not because they're seeking genuine connections. They fill their time with people who don't add value, who don't challenge them, who don't support them, but deep down they know it. They feel the emptiness of these relationships. And over time, this can become a drain, both emotionally and mentally. Meaningful relationships, on the other hand, are those that align with your core values, that push you to grow, that make you better. These are the people who tell you the truth, even when it's hard to hear. They help you see things you might not want to see. They question your assumptions, challenge your thinking, and hold you accountable to your highest potential. These relationships are not just about what you can take, they're about what you can give as well. They're built on mutual respect, trust, and shared growth. The ability to cultivate these kinds of relationships doesn't just happen by accident. It requires intention. It requires knowing who you are, what you stand for, and being willing to show up as your authentic self. When you're clear on your values and your mission, you begin to attract the right people into your life. You create spaces for others to be real with you, and you make it clear that you value people who bring depth and integrity to the table. But meaningful relationships aren't just about finding the right people, they're also about becoming the right person. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that other people are the ones who need to change, that they're the ones who need to be more supportive, more engaged, more present. But the truth is, you can only control your own actions. If you want meaningful relationships, you must first be willing to invest in them. You must give more than you take, show up with vulnerability, and take the time to understand others at a deeper level. And relationships that are based on mutual respect and collaboration create a powerful force. These are the relationships that lead to the greatest achievements, both personally and professionally. In your 40S and 50S, you've likely accumulated a vast amount of knowledge and experience. But what truly sets successful people apart at this stage of life is their ability to leverage the collective knowledge and strengths of others. No one person can do it all. And when you stop trying to do everything on your own, you open yourself to a whole new world of possibilities. Collaboration isn't just about working together on projects. It's about the exchange of ideas, skills, and perspectives that you wouldn't have access to otherwise. It's about finding people who complement your strengths and fill in your gaps. It's about building teams, whether in business or in your personal life, that function more effectively than any individual could on their own. The best collaborations are built on a foundation of trust. Without trust, you're left with nothing but a series of transactional interactions. Trust is what allows you to take risks, to share ideas freely, to push boundaries. And trust doesn't happen overnight. It's earned over time through consistent actions that show you're reliable, that you have integrity, and that you're committed to the success of others as much as your own. If you're in your 40S or 50S, you likely understand the value of quality relationships by now. But at this stage, the stakes are higher. The people you choose to surround yourself with can make the difference between stagnation and growth, between success and failure. So take stock of your relationships. Are they truly meaningful? Are they helping you evolve, or are they holding you back? Don't be afraid to let go of relationships that no longer serve you. No matter how long you've known someone or how comfortable you are with them, this isn't about being ruthless. It's about being intentional. It's about making room for relationships that lift you up, challenge you, and help you become the best version of yourself. The right relationships and collaborations have the power to unlock opportunities that you couldn't create on your own. They help you navigate challenges with more resilience, more wisdom, and more resources. And ultimately, they make life more enjoyable and fulfilling. At this stage of life, it's not